In the opening scene, we are introduced to Michelle, a 32-year-old woman who has been a bright and intelligent individual since her early years. Michelle's ambition since childhood has been to become a director by the age of 30. Additionally, she sets her sights on getting married and starting a family by the time she turns 35 and retiring from her professional life by the age of 40. In her post-retirement phase, Michelle envisions opening a cozy and charming craft store near the serene and tranquil beach. At present, Michelle is employed at an advertising agency owned by a talented and striking individual named Bill Joe, a graduate from the prestigious Harvard University. It's revealed that Bill is a distant relative to Barack Obama and wedded his partner a decade ago. However, rumors are circulating that he has recently filed for divorce. Bill's impressive persona and charming demeanor have caused many women, including Michelle, to be smitten with him. One night, as Michelle is working late in her office, she is approached by Tony, one of her junior colleagues, who surprises her with her favorite pizza and 2 tickets to a concert. Michelle knows that Tony has been harboring feelings for her since they first started to work together. Hence, she declines his offer, citing their age difference of 6 years as a barrier to a romantic relationship between them. Confused, Tony reminds her of the event that transpired 40 days prior, her birthday party, during which she admitted that she likes him. However, Michelle brushes off the conversation, saying that she was completely drunk at the time. The next morning, while freshening up, Michelle is astonished to see unsightly pimples on her face. The sudden appearance of blemishes prompts her to seek out the professional opinion of a dermatologist without delay. Upon examining her skin, the dermatologist explains that the body can become more sensitive during certain periods, which may also be an indication of pregnancy. At first, Michelle is amused by this suggestion, but as she begins to reflect on the past events, a hazy recollection of the morning after her birthday party comes to mind. She recalls waking up with a throbbing headache, disheveled clothing, and a complete lack of memory about the previous night's events. Scared, Michelle immediately schedules an appointment with a gynecologist to seek confirmation of her suspicion. Upon examination, the doctor confirms her fears that she is indeed 40 days pregnant. Overcome with panic, Michelle frantically requests an abortion, expressing her adamant stance against having a child at this point in her life. However, the doctor informs her that the termination procedure can only be performed once the identity of the father is determined. In light of this, the doctor extends a week-long period for Michelle to make a final decision about whether to proceed with the pregnancy or opt for an abortion. He also emphasizes the importance of considering all options carefully, as undergoing an abortion procedure at a later stage would be considerably more challenging. Scared about the possibility of raising a child on her own, Michelle becomes determined to uncover the identity of the father. She begins by questioning her friend Gigi about who was present at the party and who remained until the end. Gigi lists out some names, 5 of which Michelle considers potential candidates. Suddenly, Gigi recalls that Jeb carried Michelle to her hotel room and had also asked her not to follow. This revelation throws Michelle into a state of panic, as Jeb is actually the 18-year-old son of her close friend, Lynn, whom she has known since he was a child. She frantically attempts to reach him to inquire about the events of the fateful night, but sadly, he doesn't answer her calls. As Michelle's anxiety continues to rise, she finds herself in a car accident. Thankfully, she emerges unharmed, except for a small injury on her forehead. Later, Tony arrives at the hospital to collect her as her car has been damaged in the crash. Concerned for her well-being, he asks if there's anything he can do to help. In response, Michelle requests that he look after her cat for a few days, convinced that it's the root cause of her recent outbreak of pimple. Upon arriving at Michelle's home, Tony is struck by the beauty of her handmade crafts and paintings. Hoping to spend more time with her, he attempts to engage her in further conversation. However, Michelle's stress levels are already at an all-time high due to the ongoing turmoil in her life, so she asks him to leave. The following day, Michelle frantically seeks out Jeb to confront him about the events of the fateful night. To her immense relief, Jeb reveals that he already has a girlfriend and has no motives towards Michelle. He even regards her as a godmother. As Michelle presses for more details about that fateful night, Jeb assures her that they simply danced for a while before he dropped her to her room to rest. This does give Michelle some relief. However, she's still confused as to who might be the father of her unborn child. In the next scene, Michelle is shown in her office when she is approached by a well-to-do man named Mr. Liu, who had been present at her birthday party. Mr. Liu seems to be smitten with her, but Michelle has no romantic interest in him. He claims that he had come to check on her that night and their interaction had escalated to the point where they kissed. However, Michelle is skeptical of Mr. Liu's account and asks him if he can recall any distinguishing features on her body, such as birthmarks. Mr. Liu brushes off the inquiry, saying that everything happened so quickly that he couldn't recall such trivial details. He swiftly changes the subject and proceeds to propose to Michelle, dropping down on his knees and presenting her with gifts for both herself and her unborn child, in an attempt to win her over. However, Michelle quickly picks up on Mr. Liu's lies, as she had never mentioned her pregnancy to him. Upon being exposed, Mr. Liu reveals that Lin had informed him of everything and that the whole thing had been orchestrated. Enraged by this revelation, Michelle confronts her best friend, but the latter defends herself by saying that she was only trying to help her friend. A few days later, Michelle finds herself in a difficult situation at work, where she gives a presentation that doesn't impress the clients. Fortunately, Bill manages to convince the clients to give her a second chance. However, Michelle still doesn't feel confident about the presentation, so she seeks help from Tony. After work, he invites her over to his place, where she is amazed to find that it is filled with wildlife documentaries and pictures. Tony reveals that his father was a renowned wildlife expert who had traveled extensively for his research work. Michelle takes a keen interest in the pictures of Tony's family and asks about them. The latter reveals that his mother had moved to the US, while his father passed away in a plane crash, which also resulted in Tony developing a fear of flying. But despite this tragedy, he still holds a deep desire to complete his father's unfinished adventure. Hearing his personal stories, Michelle's perception towards him changes, and she finds herself drawn to his nature. The next day at work, Gigi remembers a vital detail and informs Michelle that Bill also stayed in the same hotel during her birthday party. Ecstatic at this revelation, Michelle rushes to his office to question him about that night. She thinks that her baby's father is none other than her crush. However, Bill is uncertain whether something happened between them that night and has trouble recollecting it. Despite this, Michelle remains optimistic and continues to fantasize about their relationship. Bill, on the other hand, urges her to keep their relationship a secret until his divorce is finalized, as he could risk losing his company and everything else in the process. Later, Michelle confides in Lin about the same, but the latter is skeptical of Bill's readiness to take on such a responsibility. Encouraged by her words, Michelle decides to tell Bill about her pregnancy. Not long after, she receives a text from him inviting her for dinner. In the evening, they meet at a restaurant and Bill expresses his fondness for Michelle and even proposes to be in a relationship with her, making her very happy. However, when Michelle reveals that he is the father of her child, Bill is taken aback and concerned about his reputation. He urges Michelle to keep the pregnancy a secret between them, which she reluctantly agrees to do. From this point, Michelle distances herself from Tony, which he finds confusing and hurtful. He tries to understand why Michelle has suddenly changed, as she was friendly with him just a few days ago. As a result, he continues to ask about the matter. Michelle, tired of ignoring him, finally admits that she is pregnant, but with Bill's child, causing Tony to feel heartbroken. In the next scene, Michelle is eagerly looking forward to her first ultrasound appointment to see her baby. She tries to contact Bill to join her, but he doesn't respond. Disheartened, Michelle heads to the clinic alone, but as she is undergoing the ultrasound process, Tony appears pretending to be the father. They then watch the baby's screen in what turns out to be an emotional scene. After the appointment, Michelle and Tony take a stroll in the park, where she confides in him that she doesn't want to date anyone anymore, and just wants to focus on being a good mother. Tony interrupts her and brings up his mother's struggles as a single parent, saying that he doesn't want Michelle to go through the same hardship. He offers to help her in any way he can, and even assures her that he will leave when she no longer needs his support. This shows how much Tony cares for Michelle and her unborn child, and that he is willing to be there for them in any way he can. After many days of helping Michelle with everything a caring partner would, Tony becomes more invested in her well-being and the baby's needs. He takes care of her diet, rest, and mood swings, and even goes shopping for baby supplies and decorates the baby room. One day, Tony takes Michelle to a restaurant, where they unexpectedly spot Bill with another woman. Tony privately confronts Bill and asks when he plans to finalize his divorce, hoping to learn when he will marry Michelle. However, Bill suggests that Tony and Michelle make a good couple, so they should pursue a relationship. Tony challenges him to say the same thing in front of Michelle, but Bill refuses and instead flirts with her while pretending that the other woman is just a friend. Enraged, Tony demands that he tell her the truth, but Bill simply leaves without providing any answers. Feeling confused, Michelle believes that Bill misunderstood her relationship with Tony and follows him to try to clear up the matter. But despite her best attempts, Bill refuses to listen and depart. This breaks Michelle's heart so badly that she decides to live alone. Tony tries his best to make her understand that Bill does not harbor any affection for her and is not interested in having a future with her. In addition, he asserts himself as the one who was there for her during her times of need, claiming that Bill has done nothing to support her despite being the biological father of her child. However, all his words are in vain as Michelle simply leaves without listening to him. The following day, when she reaches her office, she finds out Tony has decided to quit his job. She is unable to stop him, despite her best efforts. Later, Michelle summons up her courage and confronts Bill, asking him if he really wants to be a father to her baby. When he hesitates to answer, she realizes her worth in his life and decides to leave him and her job. As Michelle starts packing her things, Bill's wife appears and expresses her desire to meet the woman who has been close to her husband. She claims that Bill is not the ideal person everyone believes him to be and requests the staff's opinion to use in court. To everyone's surprise, Bill's assistant steps forward and admits that she slept with him at Michelle's birthday party. She confesses that she had a crush on him from the beginning, but he didn't look towards her even once. So, she took advantage of him while he was intoxicated, taking him to her hotel room. That night, Michelle is alone in her apartment reminiscing about the moment she shared with Tony and how he had always been there for her. The next day, he unexpectedly shows up at her door and Michelle is overjoyed to see him. However, her happiness is short-lived as Tony informs her that he is leaving for Africa to follow in his father's footsteps. Although Michelle is saddened by this, she puts on a brave face and bids him farewell, holding back her tears. Later, Lynn criticizes her and calls her foolish for letting Tony go, implying that she should have held on to him. In response, Michelle confesses that she does have feelings for Tony, but she doesn't want him to compromise his aspirations for her. As months go by, Michelle begins to rebuild her life and finds the courage to start afresh on her own. She moves to Malaysia, where she opens a small shop selling handmade crafts, like she always dreamed of. Michelle is now in the late stages of pregnancy and seems to be happy with her life choices. One fine day, Tony pays a surprise visit to Michelle after finding out about her relationship with Bill. As they chat, he opens up about his true feelings for Michelle and how deeply he loves her. He then drops to one knee and proposes marriage, and the emotionally charged moment takes Michelle by surprise. As they continue talking, Tony reveals that he was actually the one in her room on her birthday. It turns out that he had been dropping hints to her all along about that night, but stopped after Michelle told him Bill was the father. Our beautiful protagonist is taken aback when she learns that Tony is actually the biological father of her baby. At the same time, her water breaks, prompting them to hurry to the hospital. On their way, Tony discloses that she had coerced him into sleeping with her while she was drunk, something that he did against his will. They finally arrive at the hospital, where Michelle gives birth to a beautiful baby girl. The ending scene shows the marriage of Tony and Michelle on a beautiful beach, where the couple exchange their vows, expressing their love and commitment to each other.